Amos chapter number 1 is where we're going to start out. We started last week, and what we saw in the book of Amos was kind of a formula for judgment. And he's going to work this formula. He's already talked about 3 different groups of people that we looked at last week. The Syrians, the Philistines, and the Phoenicians. All of those groups were enemies at one point or another of Israel. And Amos has pronounced judgment on them using the same formula. He talks about the sureness of the judgment. He talks about the sin that is the reason for the judgment. And then he pronounces the sentence of the judgment. And so I'm not going to repeat that for each one of those in your notes for you to take down. So you kind of got that formula down. I found that to be a little repetitive, but I did want to go through this. These next groups that we're going to look at are groups that are a part of the Hebrew genetic. Now, Edom is descendants. The Edomites were descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. And so they are related to those Jewish people. Now, Jacob is really the founder of the children of Israel because he's the one that had the 13 children and kind of founded that nation. But he had a brother named Esau who had descendants of his own. Those descendants were called the Edomites, and they lived in a region called Edom. And they were sometimes very hostile towards their distant relatives. And truly, there should have been a brotherhood between the Israelites and the Edomites. They should have protected each other and looked out for one another. But that's not that's not what happened. Moses hoped for good relations. If you go back and you read about when Moses led the children of Israel up from Egypt and entered into Canaan land, he had hoped for good relations with the Edomites. But by the time we get to David and Saul's day, Israel is constantly having to defend themselves from the invasion of the Edomites. And as time grew on, bitterness developed between these two nations, and it resulted in almost continual war. Now, I know brothers fight each other, and Jacob and Esau certainly fought each other. But there was some events that crossed the line when it come to Israel and Edom. We learned last week God condemns both the Philistines and the Phoenicians because when they would capture Israelites and sell them to Edom as slaves. And so here